So this data that we're looking at will make a great chart, and I'll show you why. Because it has the column headings and it has the row headings. Now, you don't need those things to make a chart, but it sure is going to make the chart look a whole lot better when we have the column headings and the row headings. Now, sometimes during the session, I'll make my mouse do that, so you can find my mouse that way as well. All right? And you can see I do have the newest version of Excel. So if you have anything from Excel 2013 onward, then the screen should be pretty similar to what you have. So we'll make this chart, and then we have other charts to make as well. So first thing you want to do is you always want to highlight your data. So I'm going to click on cell A3, and I'm going to highlight from A3 over to I9. Now, the reason I am starting on cell A3, if you notice, my first row contains my column headers, and my first column contains my row headers. That'll pretty much guarantee that the chart's going to look as good as possible. All right? So at this point, let's start our first chart. Most of your charts can be found under the Insert menu. So I'll pick on Insert, and then you have your chart types over here. Now, they have added some new chart types recently, and maybe towards the end of the session, I'll show you some of the new chart types. But let's go back to a classic. I'm going to move my mouse there, and it says Insert Column or Bar Chart. And then even if I click on that, there's different varieties. So there's many different types of chart here in Excel, and they're always adding more and more. So I want to click on the first one. And just like that, it makes a pretty decent chart for you. So if you highlight the data the correct way, the chart's going to look pretty good. Now, of course, we'll be able to enhance that chart, but it's really not that bad right from the beginning if you highlight the chart the proper way. Now, let's go over some of the chart terminology. The numbers on the left-hand side, that's called the y-axis. Whereas it's January, February, and March, that's called the x-axis. This guy over here is called the legend. The lines going across the chart, that's called the grid lines. And we even have a chart title. Now, of course, we'll be able to enhance that chart, but it's really not that bad from the beginning. So the numbers on the left is called the y-axis. Down here, where it says January, February, March, that's called the x-axis. This is called the legend. The horizontal lines are called the grid lines, and then we have the chart title. Now, if you notice, it put the chart right on top of the data, so I would never leave it there. I'd like to move that chart. To move that chart, you're going to move your mouse onto your chart so that your mouse says chart area, like that. Usually, in the background of the chart, it'll say chart area. So when it does say chart area, I'm just going to pick it up and drag it so it's not going to be in the way of something else. So you can always move the chart. Now, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit. You probably know that if I change the data on the spreadsheet, the chart is also going to change. So for example, I'm going to come over here in cell A4, and I'll type in sales, and notice how the chart changed. And then I'll come over here to cell A6. Usually we abbreviate that to say RND. So I'll type in RND, and the chart changed as well, as you can see. So if you change the data on the spreadsheet, the chart's also going to change. Now I'm going to scroll down so we can just see the chart by itself. Good. Now the next thing I'd probably do is I'd probably make that chart larger to make it easier to read. So to make it larger, I'm going to click on the chart, follow my mouse down here to the corner, and we'll get the sizing handle. I like to use the sizing handle in the corner so it'll keep it in proportion. So I'm going to get the sizing handle and drag it out. Of course, it's going to become bigger and easier to read. So to resize your chart, you're going to click on it. Now, if you look at my mouse, there's also a sizing handle at the top, on the sides, at the bottom. But I like to use the one in the corner so it'll keep it in proportion. So you get the sizing handle, you stretch it out. Of course, it's going to become bigger and easier to read. All right? So now let's go further with our chart, of course. Now, in this case, you're going to click on the chart, and then you get two extra menus in the chart. You get Design and you get Format. So now we could also use the icons on the right-hand side of the chart, and I'll show you those in a few minutes. Let's go with the Design menu. So over here on the left-hand side of the chart, it says Add Chart Element. So that's what we used to call the chart options a long time ago. So this is really the heart of the chart right here. Let's go through some of those choices. If you didn't have a chart title yet, of course you'd like to have a chart title. So I'll pick on the word chart title, and I'll pick on above chart. And if it didn't say chart title before, now it'll say chart title right there. Of course, you want that to say something different, so you're going to type right over that. Make sure you click on the chart title so that it is selected, and then I'll type in 2019 budget. And then when I hit the enter key, the chart title now says 2019 budget. So I'd almost always like to have a chart title. Another title that I like to have is over here on the left-hand side next to those numbers. You've seen these before. It might say dollars or gallons or cases, whatever it's going to say. That's called the axis title. So again, we're going on the design menu, and then I'll say add chart element, and then I'll pick on axis title. Now the horizontal title is at the bottom and the vertical title is on the side. So I'll say primary vertical, and then notice over here it says axis title on the left-hand side. Of course you want that to say something different, so I'll type in dollars, and I'll hit the enter key, and now it says dollars on the left. So I would almost always want to have an axis title on the left, and I would almost always want to have a chart title. Now we know what it's talking about, it makes more sense. You see this guy down here at the bottom? This is called the legend. The legend is going to show you the color and what that color represents. Some people want to see the legend, some people don't. Some people would rather have that at the top or on the left or on the right. Well, we have control over that as well. So I'll pick on add chart element, legend. Now, if you pick on the word none, it'll disappear completely. But notice how I can put it on the right, the top, the left, or the bottom. Now, I'm going to leave mine on the bottom. I just want to show you that you can rearrange the legend. And that's going to be right down here. Now, a lot of people like this next one. They might ask you to put the numbers on each individual bar. That's called a data label. Now, if we did the data labels right now, then it would show the numbers on all of the bars. What if I just want the numbers on the purple bar? So I'll pick on the purple bar. Notice how all of the bars of the same color are now selected. So we can do them all at the same time. At this time, I'll say add chart element, and then data label. And I like the one that's called outside end, but you can always try the different ones. I'll pick on outside end, and notice how the numbers are on the top of the purple bars. So when you want the numbers in the bar, that's called a data label. Another way we can add numbers to the chart is the data table. Let's see what that one does for us. So I'll pick on add chart element, data table, and I'll choose the second one here with legend keys. Let's see what that does. Notice how it puts the numbers below the chart. Maybe look at it that way. That's called a data table. Here it might be a little bit too busy, but at least you know what that is now. So we're going to take that away. I'm going to say add chart element, data table, and I'll say none. So you can easily add things to the chart or take things away from the chart as well. Now, do you see the lines going across the chart? Those are called the grid lines. Some people want to see the lines, some people don't. So I'll say add chart element. We'll say grid lines. Now, I already have the horizontal lines. I would like to see the vertical lines. So I'll say primary, major, vertical. And now we have the vertical lines as well. So notice how we have a lot of flexibility on this chart. Now, a lot of people like this next one. It's called a trend line. The trend line will connect the dots between the series and show the trend more clearly. So I'm going to click on the purple series again. Then I'll pick on add chart element, and then we'll pick on trend line. Now, sometimes the trend line is not available depending on the chart type that you've chosen, but you can see it's available for this one. So I'll pick on the word trend line, and I'll pick on the word linear, which is going to make a straight line. And you can see how it connected the dots between the series. That's called a trend line. Many people like to see that. Now, with the trend line, we could do something special. We can make it do a projection into the future. So here's how you can go further with any chart. You can double click on any part of the chart. So I'm going to double click on the trend line right there. And then notice how you get this extra window on the right hand side. So with the extra window, then we can do a lot more choices, as we can see. Now in this case, because I double clicked on the trend line, it says format trend line on the extra window. So my point there is you can double click anywhere on the chart and get the extra window from which you'll have a lot more choices. Even here, if I pick on the bucket, you'll get some extra choices. Or if I pick on this icon or this icon, you get even more choices, but they're all about the trend line. So I'm going to pick on the 3 bars right there. I'm going to scroll down and look what it says. Forecast forward. So I'm going to change that 0 to a 3, which in our case will be 3 months. Then I'm going to close that window. And notice how I did a projection into the future. So again, watch again. I'm going to double click on that trend line, double click. That'll open up the extra window. This time I'll pick on the 3 bars over there. And look what it says. Forecast forward. And I'll change that 0 to a 3, which in our case is 3 months. I'm going to close that window. And it really did a projection into the future. Just remember, you can double click anywhere on the chart and you'll get the extra window from which you have a lot more choices. Now, what if they change their mind? They don't want to see that anymore, which happens all the time, right? So then I'll just click on that trend line and then hit my delete key. So you can always add things to the chart or you can take things away from the chart. You're never set in stone. It's pretty flexible. So we picked on the design menu and we said add chart element. And those are great things to add to your chart or take away from the chart. Now, here's a new way you can do the same thing. Now, this started in Excel 2013. So if you have Excel 2010 or something before that, this one's not going to be available for you. I'm going to click on the chart, and then you pick on the plus sign, and then that's a way to get to those same features. Once you get used to that plus sign, it's actually quicker to use that than it is to go all the way back to the top. So that's another way to add those chart elements, as you can see. Now, if you want to get rid of that window, just pick on the plus sign again. Good. Let's go through these other icons on the right side of the chart. So I'll pick on the paintbrush. And the paintbrush is the chart styles. These are preset formats. So you might want to try some of those. Here's a really good one, by the way. The second one will actually put the numbers on each individual bar. So that was a really, really quick way to do that. I just clicked on the paintbrush. You see the chart styles, and you just pick on that second one. And just like that, the numbers are on all of the bars. So that was really quick and easy. I like those chart styles, and you can see there's a bunch of them. Now, once you pick a chart style, of course, you can customize it from there, but that gives you a tremendous head start. I like that one right there. Good. And now I'll actually put the legend on top. That was just part of the style. I can change that if I wanted to. Now notice how that window is still hanging around, so just click on the paintbrush again to put that away. Now let me show you what the funnel does, or you might call that a filter. I'm going to pick on the funnel. You see here I can take those sections away or put them back again. So what if I want to see, I don't want to see the accounting section anymore. I'm going to uncheck where it says accounting, and then you come down here and you pick on the word apply. And that took the accounting section away, as you can see. Or if I want to add the section again, I'm going to check where it says accounting and then pick on apply, and now that's back again. So once you get used to those icons on the right side of the chart, they're very helpful, as you can see. I'm going to click on that funnel again to put that window away. Now, let's go through some more choices. I want to show you one that's called a Sparkline. Sparkline is a miniature chart. It fits in one cell. These are really catching on because it doesn't take up a whole lot of room. Now, usually the Sparkline will go on the right side of the row or at the bottom of the column. It doesn't have to go there, but many times it's going to go on the right side of the row or at the bottom of the column. So that's why I'm going to pick on cell L4. To get a Sparkline, I'll pick on the Insert menu, of course, Insert. Now follow my mouse. Here it says the word Charts. That's called the Charts group. Then you go to the right of that and you'll come across the Sparklines. That's called the Sparkline group. Then I'll pick on the word Column right there. Then you get this window. For the data range, you're going to highlight that current row of data. So I'm going to highlight C4 to I4. You just highlight one row of data, And the location range says L4, which is where it's going to land over here. So I'm going to click on OK. That's a Sparkline. It's just a miniature chart, you see. People like it because it really doesn't take up a whole lot of room. Now, what's nice about that is, as the data changes, then the Sparkline is going to update. So I'm going to come over here and I'll type in 16,000. And notice how it's going up and down. All right, so as the numbers change, then that'll also change. It's just a miniature chart. Now, what most people do is copy that down. So I'm going to click on the Sparkline. I'm going to get the black cross. Let's call this speed fill. And I'll drag it down. And now each individual row has their own chart. These are called Sparklines. So maybe you've seen these. Sometimes they go all the way down the page. Now, here's how to change the colors of the Sparkline. We're going to click on one of the Sparklines. We'll click on the Design menu. And then here it says Sparkline Colors. I can change the different styles. Now, on the Design menu, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to say High Point and Low Point, right there. The low number is very hard to see, but clearly the high number really stands out. So when you click on the Sparkline, you can pick on the Design menu, from which you can format the Sparkline. So maybe you've seen those. Those are really catching on. Let's go back to our other chart. So I'm going to click where it says 2019 budget. That's called the chart title. And another way to go further with your chart is the Format menu up here. So I'll pick on Format. So this is where I can change the format of that one section that you have selected. So if this window opens up, I'm just going to click on that paintbrush to put that away. So ones that I use would be like the shape fill. It will be the background color of that section that you have selected. The shape outline is the border color. Sometimes I want a different border color as I do for the fill color. And then the shape effects are special effects that you can try as well. So I like these shape styles. These are preset formats. So I'll pick on the shape styles, and then you have many preset formats. So I'll use red, and now the chart title is in red. In this case, I'll pick on dollars, which is called the axis title, and I'll make that red as well on the Format menu. So you can really customize this chart to the nth degree, and this would work on existing charts as well. And now, obviously we can make that any way we want it to. Between your Design menu and the Format menu and the three icons on the right side of the chart, that's going to give you great ways to customize your chart. Remember, you can double click anywhere on the chart, and then you get the extra window from which you'll have a lot more choices. So that'll give you some things to experiment with as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and save my spreadsheet. When I save the spreadsheet, then the chart will also save with it, of course. Now, one of the features I want to display today, we want to talk about how to get that chart from Excel into PowerPoint or to Word or any of the Microsoft programs. I almost always make my chart in Excel, and then we're going to copy and paste it over to the other programs. But I'm not just going to use copy and paste. I'm going to use copy and paste special, and I'll show you why. Now, you want to move your mouse onto your chart so that your mouse is chart area, like that. Usually on the background, it'll say chart area. When it says chart area, I want to click there, and that'll select the entire chart, which is really important. And then I'll just do a copy. I just right-clicked on the chart, and I picked on copy. So you want to move your mouse to where it says chart area. So you'll click there to select the entire chart, and then we'll just do a normal copy. So from there, you'll go to your different programs. So I'm going to minimize Excel, and then we can go into PowerPoint. So I can do this to an existing presentation, or I can do it to a new presentation as well. So let's go to a new presentation, File, New, and I'll do a blank presentation. It would work on an existing presentation as well. So now the same exact step will work in Word or PowerPoint or Outlook or Visio or Project or any of the other Microsoft programs. I did a copy from Excel. Then you come to the other program and you pick on the Home menu and you pick on the pull down where it says Paste, and then you click on the word Paste Special. And then you get the window that's called Paste Special. There's two reasons why I like to use a Paste Special rather than just normal paste. First of all, it's going to look better. It really will. It looks better when you do a Paste Special rather than just normal paste. Second of all, it says Paste Link. That means if I change the chart in Excel, it'll change it here at the same time. So I'll pick on Paste Link, and we'll click on OK. Here we are in PowerPoint, and yet there's the chart from Excel. And it looks pretty good. It looks pretty good because we did a Paste Special. We also said Paste Link. That means if I change the chart in Excel, it's going to change it here at the same time. Let's see if that's the case. So go back to Excel. Let's make an obvious change. So I'm going to click on the chart title, and I'll pick on the Format menu, and this time we'll go with blue. And I'll come over here and pick on the word dollars and make that one blue as well. So that's a pretty obvious change. I went from red to blue. In this case, I'm going to save the Excel spreadsheet. Now let's see if it changed in PowerPoint as well. And you can see that it did. Now, it should change automatically in PowerPoint or in the other program. If it doesn't, you're going to click on that chart in the other program, in this case PowerPoint, right-click on it, and then pick on Update Link. So if it doesn't update automatically, just pick on Update Link, and then it should give you the newest chart. That worked because we did a copy in Excel, and then we came over here to PowerPoint, and then we did Paste Special, and then Paste Link. That way, if we change the chart in Excel, it'll change it over here as well. That'll work in Word, PowerPoint, Outlook, Visio, Project, or any of the other Microsoft programs. Now, I don't really need to save this PowerPoint presentation right now. Of course, in real life, you would actually save that. So I'm going to close that PowerPoint, and I'll say don't save, in this case. Now, let's go back to Excel. Here is the classic column or the bar chart. Let's make a pie chart. So I'm going to highlight from A3 over to C9. Let's say you just want to plot January. Now, the pie chart can only show one column of data at a time. Pretty soon I'll show you one that's called a donut chart. And the donut chart can actually show multiple columns. The pie chart can only show one column of data at a time, so that's why I have January selected. In this case, we'll pick on the Insert menu, and I'm going to come over here and pick on the pie, and I'll pick on the first one. Good. Now, I would never leave it there. I want to make sure that it's not on top of the data. So I'll pick up the chart using, you move your mouse to where it says chart area, and just drag it somewhere else so it's not in the way. Good. So let's move over so we can see that chart. Good. And then, of course, I would resize that chart using the sizing handles. Now, with a pie chart, we almost always want to see the numbers on the pie. So remember how the numbers are called the data label. So I'll pick on the Design menu, and I'll say Add Chart Element, and then Data Label. And then I like the one that's called Outside End, but you can always try the different ones. Good. So now we have the legend down here and the number. Now, this is something interesting we can do with a pie chart. I can separate the slices. So let's say I want this slice to be separated. I'm going to click on that slice. And then I'm going to click on that slice a second time so that that slice is isolated by itself. And then I'm just going to drag it out. So it looks like I'm focusing on that one section of the pie. So watch again. You pick on a slice, and you pick on it a second time, so it's isolated, and then you just drag it out, and it looks like we're just focusing on that one section of the pie. So there's your classic pie chart. So I'll just move this chart over here. Excellent. I'd like to show you a combo chart. So if you notice over here, we have the percent of total, and the percent of total is much smaller than those other numbers. So if I try to put the percent of total on the same chart at the same time, you would hardly even see it because the numbers are too small. So we're going to try to make a combo chart so we can display the percent of total at the same time. So let's see how we're going to do it. We're going to make a new chart this time. So I'll click on cell A3 and highlight all the way from A3 to K9. This time I'm going to include column K. Now we're going to start off as a normal chart. So I'll pick on the Insert menu, and I'll pick on the 3 bars again, the column with the bar chart, and I'll pick on the first one. Good. Now we might as well move the chart. So I'm just going to pick up the chart and just drag it maybe below the other one. This way it's not in the way of something else. And then, of course, I would resize that. So I'll get the sizing handle and stretch it out. Good. So notice how we can't even see the percent of total because the numbers are too small. That's what I'm trying to deal with. Now, before we deal with that one, notice the total section. The total section is a little bit too big right now, so I actually want to hide the total section. Here's a really quick way to do that. It's what I showed you before. We're going to click on that little funnel. So I'll pick on the funnel. Then we're going to scroll down. I'm going to uncheck it where it says totals. And then I'll pick on the word apply. Good. So that hid that section. So that, once you get used to those icons on the right-hand side, they're very handy. So I'm going to click on the funnel again to put that window away. Now, I don't see the total section anymore. In fact, the other sections are more prominent because of that. But I still can't see the percent of total, so that's what we're trying to deal with now. The next thing that you want to do is you want to get the word percent of total so it appears on the legend. The way we do that is you're going to click on the chart, we'll pick on the design menu, and you say switch row and column. Notice how it puts the month names and the percent of total on the bottom here on the legend. So you have 2 different views of every chart. You can pick on switch row and column to see the other view. See how now it's back to the other way? And I'll pick on switch and row and column again. So you can do that with any chart. You can go back and forth with 2 different views because of switch row and column. Now the word percent of total is on the legend. It's that green section. It should be right here and right here and right here, but it's really not there because the numbers are too small, but we're going in the right direction. So in this case, I'm going to click on that percent of total on the legend, and I'll pick on the word percent of total a second time so that it's isolated. See what I mean? It's kind of by itself. Now here come the important steps. I'm going to change the chart type of that one section only, and then we're going to get it over here on the right-hand side on the second axis. So what you do is you say change chart type up there on the design menu. Now you see how Excel has many chart types, but because I have that one section selected, you can change the chart type of each individual section over here. So I'm going to scroll down until we can see percent of total. I'm going to click on that pull down, and then I'll make that one a line chart type. You see, I'm just changing the chart type of that one section. And then look over here. I'm going to click where it says secondary axis, which will be on the right-hand side. So I'll click on OK. And that is what I'm shooting for. The green line is the percent of total. I can tell by the legend. And now it's on the right-hand side, which is the second axis. We used to call this a 2-axis chart a long time ago. Now it's called a combo chart because part of it is a column and part of it is a line on the same chart. And usually the line will be on the second axis on the right-hand side, so we can show 2 types of data. Now what I like to do is I'm going to click on that line. I like to add the numbers to the line. Remember how the numbers is called the data label. So I'm going to pick on the plus sign to the right, and I'll pick on the word data label. Actually, let me show you something. This is really subtle, but I'm going to click on that arrow to the right of the word data label, and then I like to have the numbers above that line. All right, so I'll pick on the word above. Let me get that window out of here for a second. So I'm going to click on that line. I'll get the plus sign, and I'll pick on the word data labels. I'll pick on that, and then I'll make it above. Actually, the other way I can do that is the design menu. I'll say add chart element, data label, and I'll say above. Good. Excellent. So that's called a combo chart. It is one that people use a lot because this way we can show two types of data on the same screen at the same time. A great chart that is called a combo chart. Now earlier, I showed you the pie chart. Where's that pie chart at? There it is. But the pie chart can only show one column of data at a time. So now let me show you one that's called a donut chart. I'm going to come over here and pick on the sheet where it's called donut chart. Now, the donut chart can show more than one column at a time. Here it'll show two columns, and then each column will show up as a different ring on the donut. So we'll have two rings on the donut. If I had three columns of data, then we would have three rings of data on the donut chart. So let's see what a donut chart looks like. I'm going to highlight the data from A3 to D9. We'll pick on the Insert menu. Then it's going to be under the pie category right there. And then I'll pick on the donut right there. So I'm just going to move this around and maybe resize that. So notice how we had two columns of data, so we have two rings on the donut. If we had three columns, we would have three rings here. Now this one will really benefit from the data labels. Here's a quick way to do that. I'll pick on the design menu and I'll pick on the data labels right there. Like that style is what I wanted to say. That put the percents onto the donut chart, but let's see how we can go further with that. I'm going to double click. I'm going to click on that number right there. In fact, I'll double click on it. And then it says Format Data Labels. Good. So then we're actually over here on the right side window again. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick on the three bars right there. And then I'll pick on Label Options. Good. So in this case, I really want to see the series name and the value. And I'm going to uncheck it where it says %. So I can see those numbers represent January. Then I'll pick on the number on the outside ring. And I'm going to uncheck it where it says, I'll pick on series name and then value. And then uncheck where it says %. So it turns out the outer ring was February and the inner ring was January. If we had another column over here, then that would be the next outer ring. So you can see the donut chart is a new way to display the data. The advantage that it has over the pie chart is that the donut chart can show more than one column of data at the same time. All right, so that's a new way to display the data. Let's try some more charts here. I'm going to go to the sheet that's called the bar of the pie. This is an interesting chart. So notice how this pie is then broken down into this section. It's called a bar of a pie. Now, this is kind of the old style. When I do it right now, it's going to show you the new style. So I'm going to click on that chart and actually delete it with my delete key. So I have one column of data here. And when you first do it, the bottom three, like always the bottom three will be the ones that are on the right-hand side, but I'll show you how to move them around. So I'm going to highlight that information. Then we'll pick on the Insert menu. And I'll pick on the, the pie again. And then I'll go with, it could be a pie of a pie. You can see what that one looks like. But I like this one, the bar of the pie. All right. So I'll pick on that one. Just going to move this around and resize it. Now, if we look at the legend, Bill is the orange section, Mary is the dark blue section, and Barb is the red section. And you can see that was the bottom three. So the bottom three always go on the bar part. So in other words, this green section represents the personnel, and the personnel is broken down into Bill and Mary and Barb. Well, I see Jim Smith. Jim Smith is this light blue section. Well, Jim Smith really should be on the right-hand side as well. Let me show you how we're going to do that. I'm going to click on the blue section right there. And I'll pick on that blue section again so it's isolated by itself. This is where I would double click on that section So then we can see the extra window over here on the right-hand side. So it says format data point at this time. So I'm just going to click on the 3 bars there to get some additional choices. And do you see where it says point belongs to? Well, over here, this is called the first plot. And over here, this is called the second plot. So look, I'm going to say point belongs to the second plot. And then watch what happened. Now, Jim Smith is now on the second section. Watch how we did that one again. So I see the architect. Let's say the architect should be over here as part of personnel as well. So I'll pick on the red section, which is the architect. Now, if that window isn't open, then I'm going to double click on that red section to open up this extra window. Then I'll pick on the 3 bars, and look, you say point belongs to the second plot, which is over here. Okay. Now, this will really help if we have the data labels on there again. So I'm going to click on the chart, and I'll pick on the plus sign, and I'll do the data labels. Now, that turned the numbers on. I also want to see the, let's say we want to get rid of the legend here. So I'm going to uncheck the legend. What I would really like to see is the name of the section in with the data label. So I'm going to come over here again, and then I'll pick on the arrow to the right of the data labels. And if I pick on the word more options, that actually brings me to the extra window on the side as well. So then I'll pick on the 3 bars right there. And then this time, it's going to move this window for a second. I'm going to pick on the 3 bars. And then I'll check where it says label options. And then let's see if it's the category name. That's correct. Good. So now you see where I was going with all this. So this big section here, it's called Other right now, but I'm going to give that a better name. That is 55% of the total budget. And the 55% is broken down into the architect. Yes. I'm sorry? Are we, am I not showing the screen? We okay? Okay. So in this case, yes. So if you notice, this other section is made up of the personnel, and the personnel is made up of the architect, Jim, Bill, Mary, and Barb. Now I'm going to click where it says Other right there, and I'll click inside there and just change that to say personnel. So this is an interesting chart type. It's called a bar of a pie. So you start off with one column of data like that, and then we highlight that data, and we said insert. You go to the pie category, and usually I'll pick on this one, although this one works the exact same way. And then you see how the bottom 3 make up the bar, and then I showed you how to move those back and forth to the different sections. So it's interesting. Here we're showing the personnel makes up 55% of the budget, but then they're working down into the individuals. Let me show you some of the newer chart types for a few minutes, and we'll start wrapping up. So I'll pick on the maps sheet at this time. So now if you have Excel 2016 or Excel 2019, now you can actually make some maps as well. Now the data that'll really work with the maps is countries like I have, or states, or zip codes. So as far as I know, you can make maps out of the countries. If you have state data or zip codes, that's going to work for you as well. So I'm going to highlight this information. Notice how I have the country over on the left and the amount over on the right. So we'll pick on the Insert menu, and then notice how there's one that's called Maps. Now this is actually going to connect to the internet, so you have to have an internet connection when you make this one, but I'm sure most of you have that. So I'll pick on Maps, And we'll pick on this one. Let's see how that looks. Perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and expand that. So then if you move your mouse to the blue sections, it'll then show you the country and their dollar amount. Is that correct? US dollar, and this is 172. So let's see. Here's some blue sections, and there's France, and 463.04 is correct. So that was an interesting kind of map. The blue sections are the ones that will have the blue sections are the ones that will have actual information. So like I said, it works with countries, states, zip codes. Now let's try another one. You can resize that. Now another one is a 3D map. So I'm going to go to highlight that information. We'll pick on the insert menu, and I'll pick on a 3D map. And then I'll say open 3D maps. And again, you have to have a connection to the internet, of course, to make these happen, but I'm sure most of you have that. So that one's taken a second, and then here it comes. Good. So it did add the country in there. Now you add something to the height, at least into the height. So I'll pick on the plus sign, and we'll use the US dollar amount. And now check it out. So now you can see I can rotate that. So that's why it's called a 3D map. And then the sections that are in blue is where it'll have the number for that country. So you can expand that or decrease it with those icons. So pretty easily, we were able to make that map. And then you can see how I can spin the globe a little bit. And that's why it's called the 3D map. There's the United States. And then, of course, I can zoom in or zoom out. Now, that did make a separate window. So I'm going to close that window, and we'll go back to normal Excel. So notice the data, nice simple data. It can work with countries, or I've seen it work with states from the United States, or it can work with zip codes as well. Now, let me show you a couple more new map types, and we'll start wrapping up. So I'm going to highlight this information. We'll pick on the Insert menu, and you'll see some new chart types that started in Excel 2016. Here's one that I've seen quite a bit in different publications. It's called a tree map. So you click on this one, and the tree map is going to be this one with the rectangles. And the bigger rectangle, the bigger rectangles have the bigger numbers. So let's move that over here. What I'll do with this one is I'll take the legend away. So I'll pick on the Design menu, Add Chart Element, pick on the legend and pick on None. Now what I'd like to do is add the data label onto each rectangle. So this is where you go further with your chart. So I'm going to pick in the word Italy right there. And then we'll go back to the extra window over here. Here's another way to get to the extra window. I can click anywhere on the chart, and I'll pick on the Format menu. Then I'll pick on Format Selection, and you get the extra window over here. So I showed you a few different ways to get to the extra window. I can double click on that part of the chart, or click on it, and then pick on Format, and then Format Selection. Now here, I'll pick on the word Value. Good. So that tells the better story, because now I have the section name and the amount. So maybe you've seen that tree map. I've seen that quite a bit in different publications. It's really catching on. It's just a new way to display the data. Another one that I've seen is a new chart type. I'm going to hide that information. I'll pick on Insert. And then notice how you have different chart types over here. Another one that I've seen recently is this one. I'm going to click on this icon and then the funnel chart. So then you can see how the rectangles are going across, and then clearly the longer rectangles have the bigger number. So I'm just trying to show you some of the newer chart types. Many of these are brand new as of Excel 2016, and it's just going to give you some new ways to display the data. So I'm just going to highlight the data. Notice how that data can be repurposed from many charts. So if I change that data, all of those charts are going to change because they're all tied to the same data. And I could have as many as I wanted to that would fit in one screen. Not a problem. So if you explore some of the other chart types, oh, that sunburst is like, a round, then each, let's try that one, right? Almost like a donut chart, except each country is a different section, of course. So we'll move that down here. And then, what I like to do, I like to have the number show up on each section. Well, then you modify the data labels again. So I'll pick in the word Italy. We're going to make that chart bigger, so they're really going to show up. I'll pick in the word Italy, and then we'll make sure that we select all of them. I'll pick on the design menu, add chart element, data label. I'm going to say more data label options, and that'll open up the extra window on the side again, and then I'll pick in the word value. All right, so maybe you've seen that kind of chart. That's called, the sunburst chart. Here's the funnel chart. So notice if you click around, maybe you'll see some new chart types that you haven't seen before. It's kind of interesting. If I change that information, so let's say USA is going to have 600 now. So watch what's going to happen. This chart will change. This chart will change. United States will get bigger. And the rectangle for United States will change over here as well as soon as I hit the Enter key. So I watched this one change. This one became more prominent. And then the United States section became bigger on this chart. And I'm sure it became bigger on this chart as well. So all four of those charts come from the same data. If I update the data, then all the charts are going to change as well. So today, we covered quite a number of charts. We did the basic column chart. Then I showed you how you change the column chart with the data labels and the Sparkline, with the chart title. And then we talked about the pie chart, the Sparkline. We did a combo chart. We did a donut chart. Then we did some interesting ones like the bar of the pie. And I showed you the map charts and some of the new chart types. So the first way is the way I showed you before. So in this case, notice how January, February, and March are on the x-axis and the department names are on the legend. So I'll pick on the design, I'll pick on the chart, I'll pick on the design menu, and I'll say switch row and column. So that now the month names are on the legend and the department names are on the x-axis. So you can always try switch row and column. Now, if that doesn't meet your needs, then here's the other way. We're actually going to flip the data over here. So let me show you a great way to do that. I'm going to highlight this information, and I can even include the total column and the total row at the bottom. And we'll do a copy. Now, you can see how the department names are on the sides and the month names are at the top, right? Then I usually would do this on a different sheet so I don't mess up that information. I'm going to go to a different sheet, and we're not just going to do a paste here. We'll do a paste special. So I'm going to right-click on that cell, and I'll pick on the word paste special, and then you say transpose. Okay, so you highlight the data on the other sheet, you do a copy, you come usually to a different sheet, and I'll say paste special and then transpose. Now look what occurred. Now the month names are on the side and the department names are up at the top. So we already flipped the data. So then we'll try to, when you see the pound signs, of course, I'm just making those columns bigger. Now we'll make a chart from here. So I'm going to highlight from A3 to this row. Good. And then we'll just start to make our chart again. I'll say insert, that chart, and then that one. So you can either do the switch row and column under the design menu, or you can highlight the data and copy it, and then go to a different sheet and then say paste special and then transpose. That should help with what you're talking about. So what we'll do there is we're going to change the chart type. So I'm going to click on that chart and I'll pick on change chart type. And instead of it making a column chart, you'll make a bar chart. And then you'll see if I pick on this bar chart and then click on OK, that's exactly what you just asked for. So you actually make it into a bar chart instead of a column chart. Can Excel do quarterly state and federal tax payments? So let me think about that. Well, we can do that on a pivot table. So let me bring up a different spreadsheet and we'll make a pivot table really quickly. So I'll pick on File, Open, and I'll go to the pivot table example. Now, everybody, we can do a whole session on pivot tables. I bet if you requested this from Sign Up Training, we could do a session on pivot tables, and please request me, and then we could do another session for you in the future. But I can make what you're requesting in a pivot table format, and then we can make a chart from there. So here I have a bunch of data. Here we have the field names up top, and then the data down below. So I'm going to click on one cell, and I'll say Insert, and then a pivot table, and I'll click on OK. So just to kind of abbreviate this, I want the office down here at the rows. Hello? 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 Can you hear me? Okay. I'm sorry. We were hearing some background noise or something. I'm not sure what happened with that. So now watch. I'll pick up office in the rows in the pivot table, and that made each row a different office. Then I'll pick up flight date. That's going to be a date field, and you move that to the columns. And then I'll pick up the total field and move it to the values. So watch what I can do. I'm going to right-click on the year here because I used the date field. Then I'll pick in the word group, and then you can do it by month, quarter, or year. So I'll pick on quarter and month. And now I have it broken down by quarter and by month. And then from there, I'll pick on the Analyze menu and pick on a pivot chart to make a chart from there, you see. So that's kind of what you were asking for. So the data has to be, set up like this on sheet 1. I do have a date field there. And then the first thing I thought of was to make a pivot table from there. And then when I use a date field in the column section, I was able to then group it by month, quarter, or year. So you ask for quarter and then month, and then I made a pivot table from a pivot chart from there.